Okay, here we see a 2010 BMW 318i. And where are we? Well, this is the 31st of October 2022. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and we're in Bangkok, Thailand. And this is a auction car. We're out here at the Bangkok Auto Auction. And we're out on the main lot, so there's no shade and everything's a little dusty. Now, as we look at this vehicle for the Thai market, one of the things you're real interested in is the ability to ford, and we want to make sure that if we do ingest any water here, that it doesn't just find its way to the engine. So here I think they're trying to make some effort here to have a rather sophisticated air cleaner that can separate water and air and prevent a gulp of water from going into the intake manifold. Why do I keep saying that? What's the thing about Bangkok? Hey, we have a monsoon here. The monsoon is annually. The number of nam tuam, or floods, is quite a few. And it's not uncommon to go into the shopping mall and go shopping and then come out and find 6, 8, 12 inches of water there on the road, and sometimes as much as 3 feet. And obviously you don't even want to try 3 feet. But it's important that your motor vehicle be able to ford water probably at least up to a foot or a foot and a half here in Bangkok, Thailand. And if you're driving something like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, don't move it. Just leave it where it is. Hope if you're in an underground parking garage, they have a adequate flood mitigation and pumping system to control the water. But let's take a look. Enough of that. Here we have our airflow meter, and I suspect that airflow meter is hiding from me. There's that electrical connection of only 2 wires suggests that that's just an air temperature sensor. So I suspect this is a speed density system because there's my map sensor. So inlet air temperature, manifold absolute pressure. That's going to give me an indication of the density of the air, the frequency with which the intake valves open is going to be my speed. So speed density system. Note the servo motor, gear train, and throttle blade. This is a intake manifold port fuel injected system, and on some of these later models they do not have a regulator out here in the engine compartment. This is what's called a deadhead rail. In other words, the regulator is back at the fuel pump, so I'm constantly maintaining a probably around 40 to 60 psi up here at the port fuel injectors, and that's my fuel pressure test port. Remember, this is intake manifold port fuel injection, old school. Here we see our engine oil cooler. These are coolant lines going to the engine cooling system, and that's an air bleed. This is a coolant to oil heat exchanger, and this is the cap for my cartridge styles oil filter. Now, this has a conventional throttle blade, so I don't have any Valvetronic system here. And here I do see my Vanos connectors right here, and I probably do have my BMW Vanos system, so I'm able to vary the valve timing from both the intake and exhaust camshafts. In fact, let's just take a look here. Yes, here we see our coolant reservoir, air bleed. Here's our power steering reservoir. Here we see our washer fluid. Obviously this is what I need to jump start the vehicle, and oftentimes at the auction this is made quite a bit of use of. Now, this is obviously the positive of the jumper cables or jumper box, and this is most likely this is supposed to be my negative. So there we go. Allow me to jump start the vehicle. Here we see our high pressure refrigerant line service port, and as we look there I see the high side line coming from the condenser. It's making its way back, and then it's pretty much hidden. So that low side service fitting I'm not seeing on that side. Apparently here it is, and oh bless their hearts, I have a low side service fitting coming right up here. So here's the low side, the high side of my air conditioning system. Air conditioning in Thailand is extremely important. Now, apparently I do have aftermarket LED headlights here, so I have to have this module in place. And what is this for? This fools our BMW system into thinking that the filament is okay in the headlight. If I install a aftermarket LED headlight, it oftentimes brings up a fault code for lamp out. So this is to prevent me from getting a false fault code. Of course, we have an electric cooling fan, and on this little 4-cylinder, it looks like we have an engine-driven water pump, which sometimes make a lot of people feel better. A water pump is so important. Okay, here we see the interior of our BMW 318i, and as you can see, the window is broken. This has been through, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, so the 5th auction, I believe, for this one is tomorrow. And the interior is not too bad. The dash looks pretty good. The car is dirty, and detailing is everything. There's no excuse. If you're sending a car to the auction, you want to detail it very, very carefully. Labor is just not that expensive here in Thailand, and probably for a few hundred baht, I could just clean this car up so it was immaculate. And that's what you want to do, because that when people look at a car, that's one of the things that they think, hey, you know, is the car clean? If it's real dirty and smelly and muddy and doesn't look like it's well kept or cared for, well, that has a real turnoff there for a possibility to bid. And as you can see, these already have been through 4 of the auctions. Now, we can't start and run the car. We certainly can't drive it. The engine compartment, you know, we can certainly see everything is basically there, no catastrophic leaks. The interior, we see the windshield's broken. This is going to need attention. One thing about the headliner, and this is oftentimes a problem on BMW, that the fabric of the headliner is coming down, and what happens, there's actually a type of foam that is the backing for the headliner, and this is, of course, the adhesive goes on the foam that actually glues it to the cardboard. And what it's doing is it's actually coming off. And it's not just the cardboard, it's a type of fiber board that makes up the inner liner there of the roof. And to remove that's quite difficult. I'm going to have to remove these windshield pillars. And this is a very special plastic because there's an airbag underneath both of these windshield pillar covers. So this is a special plastic that's designed to break without splintering and injuring the occupant. I have one on both sides, so you have to be very, very careful. Obviously, the sun visors need to come off, and of course, obviously, the handholds need to come off. We've got to take off, of course, the center dome light assembly, and we're going to have to take off these center pillar supports, and then the rear pillar supports too, which also have airbags. So that's another problem. And then this piece right here, you're going to take it out as one piece. You kind of have to fold it and take it out the rear of the car, and you're going to need to remove a seat. Don't try and take it out without removing the passenger seat, because if you break it, it's just going to be very difficult to get another one, very expensive. And then once you got it out, you can carefully wire brush and clean off all of the deteriorated foam and put on a very different decorative fabric, something that's a color that augments the interior of the vehicle, makes it look nice. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. And then that part of the car is new again. But this little method with the little stick pins, that's clever. These are just little pins. That's all it is, just a little pin that goes in there and holds it up really nice. Now, some of these are the screw type, but I think this one is just a pin. Just a pin, and it keeps that up very nice. Otherwise, it just simply sags down. All right, well, here we see our 318i. This is a vehicle that's about 12 years old, but certainly it could be returned to service and be an excellent vehicle for somebody. Okay, here we see our 318i BMW, and this is about 2010. Now, the front of the vehicle actually looks pretty good. So here we see the fog lights and the front of the vehicle. The headlights are not seriously fogged up or faded. And the grille and the lower portion there looks good, in good shape. And here as we walk around, I see No wheel rash to speak of here on the alloy rim. And looks like there's some life left in my tire. This looks like something possibly aftermarket that was added. So here's a little side marker light. I do see a carbon fiber cover there on the mirror. As we move across here, there might have been some type of decal or something here on the door handle. Coming around and back, the taillights look to be in pretty good shape. I do not have a plate on this vehicle. And what's interesting about Thailand, the plate stays with the vehicle for the life of the vehicle. And what do I mean by that? If I buy a car, I don't get a personalized plate, I get a plate. And what happens is that plate lives with the car for the whole car's life. Even if it has 10 owners, it keeps the same license plate. So that license plate is registered to the VIN number of that car and stays with the car.